down in the hood back in the day. We used to climb in there and watch martial arts. But listen, man, if you're gonna have a conversation, I'm gonna let you have your conversation, man. Hey, I'm glad to be here. All right, stay strong.
Always welcome, Beats. All right, everybody, I want to introduce Sasha Jones of Women's Fight News, content creator here on YouTube like myself. How you doing, Sasha?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Well, I saw that you were actually in New York City, my hometown, for the fight. You was traveling, all the good stuff. So I wanted to get your reaction to the fight. What did you expect in the build-up versus what you saw, and did it live up to your expectations?
It definitely lived up to expectations without question. I think the build-up for me, it was so much bigger than I expected. And I don't know why, because I knew it was obviously a huge fight. You know, it's there, they're making history. But it was just that level bigger and better. I don't know why I didn't think it would be as big as it was, but it was incredible. Like going to the weigh-in, seeing all the Irish fans, Puerto Rican fans, having like the WWE there as well. You know, I'm not a big WWE fan, but that brought like a side to it I've not seen yet. So the whole hype was amazing. Fight week was even better than I thought. And I think everyone can agree the fight exceeded expectations.
All right, let me get Susie's thoughts. Susie, hey. just like me and Sasha, I think we was all waiting for this fight for years, because we was talking about for years we was waiting for it, right? So just in terms of the aesthetic of the match, how did you think it would go versus how it actually went? What were you expecting to happen in the fight versus what happened in the fight?
Well, it's better than what I thought, definitely. I mean, I was so mixed. I was so torn, because on one hand, I felt like Katie wasn't as good as she was. Like, I feel like Katie a few years back would be outboxing Amanda even more than she was that night. So I think it would have been perhaps more of a boring fight in a way. I think she would have outboxed Amanda Serrano through the whole fight. Whereas with Amanda's power and with Katie not so good, and also Katie gets drawn into a bit of a brawl. She does like a scrap. That's why I was torn. I was thinking, well, if Katie does go into a bit of a scrap, there's a bit of a scrap there, Amanda with the power, who knows? So I was very torn. So yeah, it kind of went like how I thought it might go, but it was much, much better.
All right, now I'm going to go to you, Sasha. Was it the same for you? Did you expect that, if Katie gets drug out into a war, it's not going to go away? Because for me personally, right, I've been watching Amanda for many, many years, right? And I've always been ambivalent about her power. It's like, yeah, you got power. I could see that. But, you didn't knock out Heather Hardy. You didn't knock out Yamileth Mercado. And those were, Heather was a featherweight. Yamileth was a super bantamweight that moved up to featherweight. So I'm like, yeah, I can see that you got power, but I don't know that you got power that you're going to knock out Katie Taylor. Like, that's different. She moved better than him. So what was your view ahead of the fight versus what you saw?
I thought Amanda would still knock Katie down, and I kept saying in the first half of the fight, and then I was very specific and said round 3. I think she nearly did in round 5, and I do think she does hold the power. What I was surprised of with Amanda was that she rocked Katie. Katie, fair play, has an incredible chin. I didn't expect that from her. We definitely saw a different side to Katie. I think with Amanda, I watched it back today again, and she just let it go. Like, she was all over Katie at one point. She could have got the stoppage. I think maybe the weight came into play a little bit when Katie, was getting on the clinch, and I don't think Amanda had that strength to kind of push her off at times. But I think I was surprised at times Amanda, I thought, smothered her work a little bit. And I actually think if she would have given herself a little bit more time, being a bit more patient, I still believe Amanda has the power to knock Katie out 100%.
I want to get some preliminary takes, these are going to be some hot takes, because I know my take is hot. I don't know how y'all feel, but I'm like, this is the thing. I think that I'm in agreement with Susie and you, Sasha, that Katie gets drawn out into wars and it happens needlessly. Maybe it comes from wanting to please the crowd, and maybe she just likes a good fight. But I believe if there is a rematch, she will win the rematch more decisively, because now you have the first fight to draw from. Now look, the power's real. She can hurt me. She almost took me out. So I would expect if there is a rematch, she's going to be on the balls of her feet the whole night. No trading, pot shots, sticking and moving from the outside, pivot shifts, but no exchanges. Susie, how do you think a rematch goes?
I think I agree with you, really, because when she wasn't getting into a brawl and going toe to toe with Amanda, she was outboxed. So, like you say, if she played it safe and she kept out of those brawls, I think she'd outbox her definitely. However, saying that, Amanda's learned from this fight too. So, would she go in with a different tactic? Could she go in with a different tactic? Who knows?
That's definitely. I didn't think about this. See, that's why I'm glad I brought Charlotte, because I didn't even think about, like, Katie ain't the only one that learned from the goddamn fight. Amanda learned from the goddamn fight. Sasha, how do you see a second fight going?
I see. I agree with what you're both saying to a point, but if you remember the Pursoon fight, I think the Pursoon 2 fight, don't get me wrong, Katie was a million times better, but she still got brought into a dogfight. She learned at the beginning, I think, from her mistakes, and she tried to outbox Pursoon, but after a couple of rounds, she just gets brought back into it. So I get what you're saying. I think in an ideal world, Katie could outbox Amanda. I just don't think Amanda will let her outbox her. So I don't know. I think it's just a bit of the same again. I kind of just want it the exact same as what we've just seen. I don't really want to see it any different as a fan, because I just loved every second of it. And I'm sure, like, we can all talk about what could they do different, but are they going to let each other do anything different? I don't think so.
Different take. All right, now I know that things are probably going to get spicy here because I saw some of Sasha's tweets. I believe that Sasha had Amanda winning the fight. Myself actually had Katie winning the fight. Susie, who did you have winning the fight?
Katie. I had Katie winning. When I got to about round 6, I think I had it as a draw, and then it felt like then Katie got back into the fight. So to be honest, I found it quite close. Even when it came to the last round, I was like, it could go either way, depending on who finishes strong. So I pretty much gave it a round or 2 to Katie. I hadn't scored it properly, but that was what I had sort of in my head.
That sounds how I had it. After 8, I had it 4 rounds to 4 with Katie pulling away in the 7th. That's when I saw, okay, well, she doesn't look, she still looks shaky. Her legs still don't look right, but she's pulling away, she's moving, and she's countering. Amanda's not catching her the same way she caught her in the 5th. So after 8, I had it 4 rounds to 4. I had Amanda rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6. After 7 and 8, I gave round 7 and 8 to Katie. 9, I gave to Katie. 10 is like, that's the one I'm like, yeah, Katie came forward, caught Amanda with some clean shots, but Katie kind of stumbled, and I could see where the judges might think, oh, she got hit with a clean shot. Maybe she got rocked. So it was like, that one was kind of iffy for me, but I gave it to Katie. But I'm like, see, that's why we need a rematch. Okay, now let me read these super chats. You tried to tell us Cruz versus Aline was amazing. I told y'all it was going to be a good-ass fight. Y'all don't be wanting to believe me. Base the Kid says, thanks for retweeting. You still owe me a link, though. I got you on the next one. No problem. Now, the numbers were announced, and you guys are on social media just as much as I am, and there seems to be pushback in some quarters to simply accept that Taylor versus Serrano was, in fact, the bigger fight, the better fight, the more relevant fight, the more historic fight. I'm going to start with Sasha. Sasha, why do you think it's people, that guys, really, it's not even girls, it's guys. Why do you think these guys got a problem with that? Like, where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I don't get it. It just infuriates me as well at times. Like you've seen today, like you say, the numbers are out and people are still like in denial. And you think, I don't know what else they need to do now. Like, they're not just plucking numbers from thin air. Like, that's official. It's factual. The fight itself. But like I said the other day on Twitter, after that fight, there was such a hype. And then Sunday came and there was still a buzz and just so much positivity. And then Monday comes and there's negativity. And I think all those people haven't even watched the fight on Saturday, because I don't know why you're waiting until Monday to pipe up about it. And I just think it's just still the way it is, isn't it? I don't think people want to believe that women's boxing can, in a way, outbox men's boxing. I just still think that's going to be a problem for a long time.
that is going to get turned into a hot. I'm just warning you now. I'm going to edit that. I'm going to turn it into a 30-second clip. I'm using it. I'm going to get the viewership. God damn it, Susie. When you see it, when you see these, because these are men, right? And I try to, like, I ain't gonna lie, I try to profile them, and I see that a lot of them fit a certain mold. A lot of them are old, or I hate to say it, a lot of them are weird. You know, a lot of them are weird. They are like, bro, I don't understand. Why do you want them to fail? I don't understand that. Susie, where do you think that desire for them to fail comes from? Because it seems like there's guys out there that they want them to fail.
Yeah, I think it's just the case of it's been, you know, it's only recently it's become so popular, you know, more popular women's boxing. Before that, it was always a kid like, oh, women fighting, don't like it. And it's a case of changing attitudes over time. I think we're getting there slowly, but it's sort of slow progress. Because if you think back to what, say, Jane Couch fought, you know, was fighting in the 90s. I mean, it was only in the 90s that she had that massive fight where they were saying all sorts about why women can't fight and how deranged they were and if they were on the periods and all the rest of it they were saying to her as to why she couldn't be sanctioned and fight. And you think, well, that's not very long for attitudes to change when they were that extreme. So if you consider how bad it was then to how it is now, it's so much improved. So my hope is just that over time, it just gets better and better.
Well, I mean, I don't know if y'all know this. Clairvoyant. I see the goddamn future. It's going to get better. I'm telling you, you don't believe me now, you'll see when you pay attention. Clairvoyant, dog. Right?
And you do know.
Trying to tell Susie, no. Now, what I'm saying is like, yo, when I look at these cats, and it got my attention this week because I saw Sasha lost her temper with somebody. I saw you lost your temper with somebody. And that was kind of what made me like, finally, I got somebody I could talk to. But because I'm like, yo, I don't understand these. Like, I don't really understand why you want them to fail. Like, one, let me just call a spade a spade. You dudes is not fighters. You don't fucking fight for a living. Pardon me, but you're not no fucking fighter. Who the fuck are you to turn your nose up at somebody that literally fight for a living? Bro, you got a hardest fight you got all week is sleep. And you know what I'm saying? It just aggravates. Like, I don't be wanting to get into those arguments, but when I saw Sasha lose her temper, I was like, yes, I gotta have one on the show. Sasha, just what do you think motivates it though? What is it like insecurity, ignorance? What is it?
Probably all of them. Like, they've just got too much time on their hands. Like, if I don't like something, I'm not going to go on Twitter, look at it, watch these videos and comments on it. If you don't like it, just don't watch it. Simple. Like, you don't have, not everyone has to like boxing, not everyone has to like women's boxing. So just don't watch it. Simple. But I hate when people then try and spread negativity. Like, what just happened at the weekend was huge and such a big moment, not just for boxing, but for sport, for women. If you don't agree with it, just shut the fuck up. Simple, isn't it? And just get on with your life. But I imagine these people, like you say, they're older men, they're a bit weird. They've probably just got issues with women. You know, they've obviously got some deep-rooted problem with women in general.
I wanted to allude to that because I'm like, look, myself, I'm a very happy person. So I'm usually in a great mood. And I'm like, well, I can't imagine myself, like when Game of Thrones came out, everybody was watching that shit. I didn't. But you wouldn't see me pursuing threads. And I don't watch that shit. Well, I don't watch that shit. Like I don't need to tell. This mad shows I don't watch. I don't go out of my way to tell people though. Whereas with this, there's a genuine desire to almost like, oh nah, fuck that shit. Nah, that shit is like, bro, like, what is your problem? You know what I mean? And I don't know how it looks to a woman. I see it, and I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking about. Like, I'm gonna say, this is the behavior of someone that is unhappy. Mm-hmm. It's the most I can say without, you know, being vulgar. It's like something is wrong with you because that's not normal. You know what I mean? What you're doing is, and as much as you try to hide it behind the etiquette of social media, well, there are a lot of abnormal things on social media that people do. And that's one of them. You know, I made a post that, look, 1.5 versus 1.4. I told y'all this was going. All I'm saying is, I told y'all this was going to be a big fight. Y'all told me ain't nobody going to watch it. I told y'all people want to see this. So that being said, I'm gonna go to Susie. what do you think we need to do to remedy this? How best to deal with the trolls when they go above and beyond to be seen where we're not necessarily even talking to or interacting with them? How do you remedy that?
I think we just have to be positive. Like, sometimes I want to be drawn into an argument, and I just think that's what they want. They just continue their negative argument, and then it looks bad. Whereas I think if we just go above and beyond being so positive about the sport, then that outweighs all the negativity. That's what I always hope. And I think with, say, the weekend, with just the amount of attention it got, the amount of positive posts, that was brilliant. But that's what we need for lots of these fights. It can't be just this one-off fight. It has to be a push for all the fighters, really, because that's the other argument they're coming out with now, isn't it? They're like, okay, that was a big fight, but we don't, that's the only fight that we're interested in. Everyone else is rubbish. There's levels, isn't that? That's pretty much what they're saying.
That's
now.
literally, yeah. Like they just bounce from one. Like it's like it's so. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm old and I don't have the I have less patience for certain things. I'm like, yo, dog, why you just can't fucking admit that the shit is doing good? And even if you don't watch it, maybe this is what it is. It doesn't need you to do well. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't need, we don't need your opinion. We don't need your patronage. It'll do just fine without you. I got a separate thing for Sasha. Sasha, very recently it was announced that they're obviously looking at a Serrano rematch, but they are also looking at crossover fights. One with Holly Holm, the preacher's daughter, which I like. I really like that fight. I ain't gonna front. And Chris Cyborg. Are those fights that you might be interested in, or do you not like the novelty of the boxer versus the MMA fighter?
I don't like it. I would get why they would do it, and if it was for a big payday, fair enough, because they all deserve these big paydays. Aside from that, I don't like it. I don't think it creates a legacy. I don't think it really does anything else apart from obviously up their bank account, but that's fine because they would be the only people to do it. And like I say, they deserve it. But aside from that, there's just other fights that I'd rather see, the likes of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. And it's not like they've ran out of opportunities in boxing and ran out of fights. There's plenty still there for them. I think a crossover fight is when you're coming to the end of, right, we've got no one else. We've tapped into everyone else. We've achieved everything in the sport. If then the likes of Katie Taylor wants to continue and maybe do something else, fair enough. But at the minute, I'm not that into it.
Susie, your thoughts on that potential Holly Holm fight, potential Chris Cyborg fight? Is that something you're for or against?
I'm with Sasha on this. I totally agree. I can see why they would do it. Money for promotion, that kind of thing, eyes on the sport. But in terms of the actual sport, the actual thing, I'm not that interested in it. I mean, Holly Holm probably more so than Chris Cyborg because of how much she's done in boxing before. She's an actual boxer. But otherwise, no, I'm with Sasha. I'd rather see some other fights.
Now, also, I saw ahead of the fight. I have some very strong opinions about this. Estelle Mosley said that she wants the winner of the fight. Y'all know Estelle Mosley, Olympic gold medalist, beat Katie Taylor, represents France, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, could they do that fight as a revenge fight in Ireland and draw a crowd with that fight? Go ahead, Sasha.
No. It's just very similar to Katie Taylor, Tasha Jonas. So what that they fought in the amateurs? It's a completely different sport. It feels like a lifetime ago. That for me just doesn't sell fights. I'm not interested in what happened in amateurs. I think the only slight, exceptions to that could be like Clarissa Savannah, because it's like Clarissa's only defeat and they've built this up over years. Aside from that, I don't really. It's not a fight I want to see. For me, for Katie Taylor, I don't think she has long left in her career. I don't want to see her taking fights like that personally. I want to see something like the rematch or Chantel Cameron or even, Jessica McCaskill rematch. Aside from that, no. And 100%, I don't think that sells at all.
I have to say this. I've loved Chantel since she was with Cyclone. I don't want them to fight. She's dangerous. I don't want them I know Chantel wanted to fight because every time I interviewed her, she said, I want that fight. I don't want them to fight. Susie, what's your opinion of Estelle Mosley, her career, And would you be interested in seeing Taylor versus Mosley for revenge for the amateurs and the Olympics and all of that?
I mean, if it was earlier on in the career of Katie Taylor, then sure, that'd be quite a nice little matchup. But like Sasha says, at this stage in her career, it's just not a fight I particularly want to see, because we kind of know which way it's going to go. You know, she holds the IBO belt, but her last couple of fights, you know, they've just been, you know, they're not Katie Taylor level, let's put it that way. So I just feel like it's quite clear cut who would win that fight. So that's why I wouldn't be that interested.
Okay. Moving on from that, you know, we got another super fight, and it's great. I said this the other day. It's great that we have another fight that is of significance that I believe will do well commercially, and that's Savannah Marshall versus Clarissa Shields. Susie, just preliminary thoughts. You don't have to pick a winner, but preliminary thoughts.
Yeah, obviously this is a great fight. I'm liking this fight a lot. I mean, I'm a massive Clarissa Shields fan. I think she's done so much for the sport. I think she gets a lot of unnecessary stick because, you know, she has done a lot. Yeah, you know, people say there's not as much, you know, much in that division at the higher weights as the lower weights competition, but she's still just annihilated everyone she's come against. She's, you know, she's gone straight in against Franchon in her debut. She's never shied away against anyone, you know, so I give her her dues and respect for that. And obviously then we've got the massive power puncher in Marshall. So I just think, wow, yeah, what a matchup really, because although I feel like with Marshall, she hasn't done as much, but that potential for that knockout is just so real that it's going to be an interesting fight, isn't it? Because it's a case of, can Shields keep away from that the whole fight, outbox her, or can Marshall get in there and knock her out? That's the question.
We'll go to Sasha because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But you know, if you just, how do you imagine that fight plays out? You know what I mean? Because it's like, look, being real, I ain't got no hair on my tongue. I could see Savannah doing it, and I could see how it happens. And Peter's a damn good trainer, dog. Like, honestly, like, he's a really good trainer. And if I know it, he knows it. Shields is faster, but if you punch with her the way Hannah Gabriel's did, you can catch her. So how do you feel about that fight, Sasha?
I think it's tough. I mean, it's one of them. We all talk about Savannah's power, but she's got to be able to land to obviously use that power. And, you know, Shields is someone like, you know, she's never faced before, but same the other way. I think it's tough. I'm going to sit on the fence at the minute, but it's, but I've always swayed towards Clarissa. However, I think the last fights, I think Savannah's last fight has done her the world of good, because I don't think until she landed that knockout that Savannah performed well at all. I think she got hit far too much. She admitted that herself. And I think she will learn a lot from that, because Clarissa's a lot faster. So if she comes out quick, and I think Savannah can be overwhelmed if there's a lot of punches coming to her. So that's something she will have to work on, in my opinion, because she did get hit in her last fight and she didn't look great, but then she's always got that one punch. So that's something that's always going to be on Clarissa's mind. So, you know, is she going to come in with all that, you know, with multiple punches and leave herself open? So I think it's hard to call, because I think they're going to both have very different tactics than what we've seen them implement prior.
Next thing, we got another fight, which I think is a great fight, which I think, even though it would be selfish of me to say, you know, I want it now, for the betterment of the sport, I actually believe the fight shouldn't happen now, for the betterment of the whole sport. And that's Baumgardner versus Mayer. See, that could be a huge fight. There's a lot of things in place. Some of them are toxic almost because of, you know, American culture. But at the end of the day, it sells. And like, I don't want the fight, personally, I don't want the fight to happen this year. I want the fight to be built so that when it happens, that'll be that fight for this market, because it features two American champions, two American fighters. It could be that, you know what I mean? People could look at that and say, like, yo, that was a good ass, you know what I mean? Good ass fight. But how do you see that fight? I'm going to go to Susie, then Sasha. How do you see that fight?
Do you know what? If we wait until next year, my worry with May is because she is a big for the weight. I do worry that she will go up, and then that opportunity at that weight will go. However, would Baumgardner then come up to lightweight and face her? You know, it could happen at that weight. But that's my only worry. If they wait too long, that it just won't happen. Of actually the fight, I mean, yeah, it's exciting, and also I love the banter between them. You know, that up and that fire between them. I mean, it's great, isn't it? Great watching on Twitter the little spats. But yeah, the actual fight is going to be so interesting because I feel like May has just got better and better. You know, I've given her more respect every fight, and I feel like she's grown. But with Alicia, I don't feel like we've seen enough from her yet. I feel like she's got in there against Terry and done brilliantly. And she had that power, but you know, I want to see more of her boxing skills against some of the elites to see exactly where she's at, because I don't feel like I know exactly where she's at to be able to tell whether how she'd be against Maya. So really, it would be nice to see her against, you know, Choi or someone of that level, just to see how she would fare.
Mm-hmm. Sasha, how do you feel about that fight? Who do you give the edge? And if if you have a winner in mind, who is it?
It's tough. I would like it, you know, I would like to see it this year though, because of what Susie said with the weight. And I think then we could see it again at 135. I think sometimes we all wait too long for fights to happen at like the perfect moment, but there's no saying that they can't fight each other again in the future. So, you know, Michaela said quite a lot. This will be a last year at 130. I think it will. So yeah, I'd like it to wait because like you're saying, you know, promotion wise and bigger opportunity, but I don't know. I don't know who I see winning. At this moment, based on their last performances, I would say Michaela Mayer, because she does get better. And, you know, you look at that fight with Hamadouche and she brought things in that ring that I didn't think she had. Like, I didn't know she was that good fighting on the inside. And, you know, she holds quite a bit of power. You know, she keeps her range and things like that. But I do think sometimes she does at times kind of fall back into like a bit of an amateur style and can avoid, you know, moving up and down the body and things like that. So that gives Alicia, you know, opportunities. But it's an interesting one. I think the build-up would be amazing, you know, like Susie said already, you know, the back and forth that goes between them. But it's a fight I think we could see a few times at a couple of different weights. So yeah, sooner the better.
Now, we talked about the ladies. I got to get your thoughts. Joshua versus Usyk. It's a lot on the line. Very important fight. Look, this is how I feel, right? Because I've been watching this damn sport so long, I don't just think about the fighters. I think about the health of the sport. A lot of people don't appreciate how much money got injected into not just the British boxing scene, but the heavyweight division as a whole because of Anthony Joshua, and how it might seem selfish. But yeah, the heavyweight division, if it has somebody that can move tickets like that, it's better for the division. Fights happen. Like, I don't think that he's the perfect fighter. You know what I mean? Obviously not. But it's like he fought the fights. Like, you didn't really have to ask him to fight Usyk. He did it. Even though I already knew, like, yo, dog, that dude could lose that fight. He could lose that fight, but you didn't have to ask him to do it. So how do you guys view the rematch given everything that's happened? That Usyk came back from the Ukraine about, I think, 10, 15 pounds lighter. Sasha, how do you view the rematch?
Usyk wins. I'm not the biggest Joshua fan in the sense of he has done wonders for the sport, don't get me wrong. But I just don't know what he can bring to the table to beat Usyk. I was there. I was lucky enough to like be there, watched it at Tottenham. The atmosphere was incredible. And I remember getting to the end thinking, there's no way Joshua's won. But I was so sure the judges were going to give it to Joshua. So it was quite nice to see for once. It was quite a fair result. But in my eyes, like, there's just nothing. And then, like, I saw a quote today on Twitter saying, I don't know if it's how official it is, but, you know, Joshua said he needs to go back to basics and knock him out. It's like, well, yeah, obviously. But, like, that's not that simple, isn't it? Like, I'd be a world champion if I could just say, oh, I'll get in the ring and just knock them all out. It's like, obviously. But, you know, for me, Usyk's too good, too slick. Joshua's too mechanical for me. He's a little bit slow. He tries to load up on his punches, and I don't see him win him, unfortunately for British boxing. But I'm an Usyk fan anyway, to be fair.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's Usyk fan too. Susie, should Joshua hit him with a chair? how do you see the fight? How do you see the rematch going?
I thought, is this going to be a crossover fight to some sort of wrestling?
Might have to be. That might be his
WWE.
only chance.
I'm with Sasha. Exactly as what Sasha said, to be honest. I think Usyk wins. However, saying that, like you said, there is that little bit of the fact that the war's going on. You know, he's got that on his mind. He's lost that weight, and considering what weight he is anyway, you know, he needs all the weight he can get to be at heavyweight. But as he was, you know, in the previous fight, definitely I think it's Usyk, and I think I'd like to see Fury Usyk, and I think Usyk beats Fury as well.
Honestly, I'm kind of with you there. A few reasons. Fury said it himself. You know, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but he said it himself. He struggles with smaller fighters because what he's got on the big boys is he doesn't move like a big boy. He moves like a little man, but he can't outlittle the little man. You know, he's talking about the Cunningham fight, and he said that, you know, he's really slippery. He's trying to box. He felt like he was getting outboxed. And I'm like, well, if you just apply that formula to Usyk, who is a way better boxer than Cunningham, you know, maybe this guy goes undisputed. Do you feel that way, Sasha? Do you feel Usyk has what it takes to beat Fury?
Yeah, 100%. And again, like, you know, big Fury fan, but for me, Usyk is he's just the best, in my opinion. I don't see any of the heavyweights beating him. And like you say, Usyk takes away all of Fury's advantages. And I think that's why we won't see Fury come back for that fight. We'll see him come back for the Joshua fight. But I really do not believe we will see him come back for the Usyk fight for many reasons. Not the fact that, like, you know, I'm sure he thinks he would win, but for many reasons, it's not the same hype anyway as it would be, you know, Fury Joshua, but he also wouldn't win. Whereas 100% all day, Fury would beat Joshua.
That's gonna make I'm gonna turn that into a soundbite. Also, I'm gonna turn that into a 30-second clip. I'm gonna aggravate a lot of people with that clip.
I'm gonna get so much hate now.
It's welcome to the club. I can hate it on all the time. All right. Jeez, I lost my train of thought. All right. So basically, because I'm with you on that I feel like, look, AJ wins that fight, Fury comes back. Usyk wins that fight, Fury doesn't come back. Susie, do you think the Kinahan stuff might also be a factor, might also affect his decision? Because, you know, so long as he's out here and he's fighting and he's winning and there are microphones in front of him, and so long as that ordeal is going on, that they're trying to get Kinahan, do you feel like that's a factor that might also influence his decision to stay away?
Yeah, no. I think the fact that they managed to avoid some heat even with this massive fight that they've just had, I think there must be enough to distance himself from it. I think there's going to be enough distance for it not to be an issue, to be honest. I don't think they dig up much there. I think everyone's been pretty clever.
What do you guys make of all that? Because, like, to me, I don't know, like, if you know the history of the sport of boxing, the sport's always had mobsters in it, and it always has had a level of criminality. So I don't know. I feel like Kinahan's getting a bad rap. Maybe that's just me. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm like, look, Don King killed the guy. I don't even want to name names and shit, like, because I don't want nobody looking at this. Whatever. Point being, look, there's mad criminals in the sport of boxing. What's one more? I'm not going to turn that into a soundbite. Yeah, just Sasha, do you feel that way, or do you feel no? He must be purged. He must be dealt with.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. I mean, come on, just because there's a couple more, you know, you've got to start getting rid of them. And I'm surprised how surprised people are by what's happened. Like, we've known this for how long? We've known what he's been up to. You know, I have no sympathy for those involved either. They've all known what's going on, where the money is coming from. You know, I don't know why people are surprised. Ideally, I think in a perfect world, we would remove all of these from the sport and have like a very clean sport, but that's never going to happen. I don't think that happens in any sport, but yeah, I think get rid of them. But to be fair, I'd love to know what's going on though with all them signed fighters, like, you know, everyone that was signed to MTK, like, I presume we're going to have like an MTL or, you know, something they're going to change a letter and then it's just all back out. You know, I think that's what's going to happen because we've not heard anything, have we? So,
well, I mean, you know, MTK basically officially closed their doors. And look, last year, it was last year they came out with Pro Bellum. And I noticed early how many relationships they were forming and how fast. And I'm like, something's not right here. And I'm like, wait a minute, Pro Bellum's based out of Dubai. Daniel's based out of Dubai. And this fight is with MTK. And this is like, oh, I see what you're doing. So the heat, I feel like the heat has really been on since last year, you know, and that's what coaxed them to come out with Pro Bellum so that they can migrate what they have at MTK over to Pro Bellum. And then, you know, that'll be the money laundering situation, because if they're doing anything, they're doing that. They're laundering money. But at the ground level with the fighters, I don't actually think very many of the fighters know the inner workings. You know, I think that at least for them, there's plausible deniability. They're like, well, you didn't shoot anybody, did you? You know, you didn't sell any, even though I heard some things about Joseph Parker, but you know what I mean? This idea has some shit going on, yo. But how do you feel, Susie? What, can't we just give Kinahan a break? I can imagine how angry people are going to be when they hear that.
Who doesn't want a load of money plowed into the sport? At the end of the day, who doesn't want these mega, like, you know, Pro Bellum, MTK? Who doesn't want all the fighters signed so they all come out and fight? I mean, it's great. But obviously, like, you know, you say we can't be like funding this.
I just don't think it's fair. Like, I'm like I thought about it, you know, I had like a little inner monologue or like a little movie, like, you know what, maybe Daniel's trying to go straight. You know, he's trying to keep boxing. You get a guy a chance. Like, he didn't do anything. You know, but, you know. Nah, I mean, it is what it, like, I understand it though. Like, all jokes aside, I understand it. Like, look, he's a criminal. Even if he didn't kill anybody, these guys, you know, they shot some people. So how much? Yeah. Look, it's not being pro Kinahan. It's more like, it's kind of like what Paulie Malignaggi said about banned substances, that you can't single out any one guy when that's where the sport is. You know, it's not just that guy, that's where the sport is. So sometimes that creates an environment where everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses. So when I think about that, well, like, maybe boxing needs the mob. Yes. Boxing was, you know, like, don't you see, look, boxing's on an uptick, right? Coincidentally, there's a very famous mobster. You know what I mean? But in that in-between pocket between the Italian mob and the Irish mob, boxing kind of just declined a little bit. Like, mafia is good for boxing, but, you know, people are going to be mad. Like, I'm not even going to turn that into a soundbite. This is going to be a lot.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that.
No. like, a lot of people already got mad at me when I said that. And I don't know. I have a matter of fact demeanor towards it, that, like, when has boxing not been run by the mob? Because as far back as I can remember, that's always been the case. This is just another mobster. Like, y'all just don't like him because he from over there instead of over here. That's the only part y'all don't like. Because, you know, the American media, they got on their little virtue signaling thing, like, wait a minute, these criminals, they're literally murderers. You know what I mean? In a sport, that didn't bother you, but this bothers you? What's the difference? You're like, come on, like, give him a break, man. He's a good guy. No, he's not, but they're gonna get mad at me if that. I'm gonna cut that part out. Like, I could see the Irish media writing about this now. Like, as a lunatic, like, does he know? You know what I mean? All right. So last bit, plug your channels, your social media. Let everyone know where they can find you.
The Sasha Jones on Twitter and Instagram.
Women's Fight News. So it's Women's Fight New 1 on Twitter and Women's Fight News on Instagram. And then on YouTube, it is, just Women's Fight News.
Nice. Susie, Sasha, always a pleasure. I'll be happy to have you guys back whenever you want to chop it up and talk about mob and drugs and cocaine and all cool stuff. And Usyk. So I'll bring you back for Usyk. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right, now let me get to these super chats that I didn't read. Aaron Baker says, if Sisrakit Sohrung Visai beats Bam Rodriguez, then he's on the pound for pound list, right? That's 3 champs knocked off. Nah, because I don't have Bam on the pound for pound list, Aaron. I don't have him there, so that really wouldn't. I mean, I see what you mean because he's been there before, but based on what's going on now, I wouldn't have him. I'm gonna be able to watch the Zone in Asia, yet I have to stream only top-ranked PBC cards. The Zone is downplayed too much. And let me see what other super chats are here before I log off and upload the next episode of the relay. Napoli says to Sasha and Susie, what are your predictions? Oh man, I'm sorry. I should have scrolled down sooner. I'm sorry. I'll ask him, though. I'll get it. To give an answer on why women are not as appreciated as men in boxing, the mentality these people is that it's easy because a woman did it. That's my take on it anyway. I see what you mean, bro. I see what you mean, that maybe that's why some of those guys are like that. All right, ladies and germs, I'm going to wrap up this live. I'm probably going to go live later to talk about that Spence, Heyman, Canelo thing. Right now, I'm about to upload the next episode of The Relay. Thank y'all for watching.